Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we explore hot topics and bring you perspectives from the inside. Carly Werner is Vice President, External Affairs for Comcast Midwest Region. She's an attorney who understands regulations, which are always present in tech. Carly works to expand internet access to all parts of the United States, especially in rural areas. She's here for the case file I call Broadband Bending. Carly, let's face it, a big reason you're here is because I'm totally confused about the marketplace when it comes to Wi-Fi and broadband. We also hear about 5G. I assume other crisis filers are a little hazy too. Can you start with some basic definitions?
Absolutely. Would love to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is internet access.
And you'll be happy to know the Crisis File studio is a Comcast studio.
I love it.
Tom is a smart editor.
Thank you, Tom. Good choice. And I think you're setting up this conversation in a really good way because it highlights what a rich and competitive marketplace there is right now for internet access. And I think I am certainly old enough, and I think many of your listeners might be as well, because it wasn't that long ago, to remember the days where you'd have a cell phone with a cell phone plan, a limited one, and you would do your phone calls and texts on that. And then you'd have an internet connection at your house where you'd literally like plug your computer into, right, to get your internet access.
Exactly.
And the two never would meet. And now is this growth in the marketplace because all these networks are getting into the internet access game. And so the 5G, as you asked, this is a good way to start. You know, that is your traditional cell phone wireless technology. And how the technology used by the big cell phone providers to get into the fixed wireless internet access game. The broadband then is what our traditional wireline to your house services. So your Comcasts with the fiber and the coax. And then what we get to is the real unsung hero of the story, which is Wi-Fi. And you mentioned it, and it's a very little, I think, talked about technology. But it's really the technology that is driving our digital lives.
I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone call Wi-Fi the unsung hero.
It is the unsung hero, Roshini. My typical night, and this would probably resonate with many of your listeners, right? On my couch, streaming my favorite show or the latest show on Netflix, probably filling up my Target app, my cart with all the groceries for the week.
On your phone.
On my phone, you know, with my youngest kid next to me, probably scrolling his iPad, laughing at weird YouTube videos. That's because of Wi-Fi technology. And what that technology is doing, right, is taking all that network traffic out of all your smart devices, taking it to that connection in your home, through that wired connection we talked about before, and then into the internet ecosystem.
And that's just 2 of your 5 family members. But the fact is, any family might have multiple people, multiple devices, both hardwired and handheld type devices.
Absolutely.
In one home.
Absolutely. So what we know on our Xfinity networks is that the average user has about 34 wireless devices connected to their network.
So what are some of those devices, Carly?
You've got your appliances, you've got your watches, you've got your tablets, of course, computers. Think of all your speakers.
There's a lot.
It goes on. And it's things you're not even thinking about. Your thermostat.
Some people have rings,
cams,
Nest, different things.
Security systems, on. And this trend is only growing. For sure, with like the explosion of AI, more and more devices are going to be smart. They already say 9 out of 10 devices that are sold now are smart in some kind of a way. We have super users that have over 100 devices connected to their Wi-Fi networks.
Which is crazy. So when a regular consumer, which I would consider myself a regular consumer, in my home, where I also have my office, I mean, how do you even make sure you're doing it right in that household?
Well, I can talk about certainly how we are approaching this kind of explosion in Wi-Fi as a provider. We're really caring for that Wi-Fi experience. And I think that's not what people are thinking about. I think they're still just thinking about that connection into their home. Like what we have done is spent quite a bit of investment and time into our own technology of that gateway modem that's providing all that Wi-Fi connectivity. Now, like our newest XB10 modem is going to be the first one that allows for that symmetrical service wirelessly, multi-gig service wirelessly up to, over 100 devices, but then also additional features. Like you want to be able to control your Wi-Fi system in some way. Some of the additional features, that we've developed are ability to, open an app and see all the devices that are on your network. I bet you couldn't even list all the devices that are on your network right now. So that's a huge kind of a way to control that, your Wi-Fi network. Also, turning on and off Wi-Fi. Now, if you've got kids, if you've got teens.
Protections.
This is a huge benefit. We also like to call it like the party buster feature. Because let's say,
party buster.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're out on a Friday night and your kids are at home and you notice that there are 20 new devices that have just connected to your Wi-Fi.
Feeding off your
network.
Wi-Fi.
Guess what's probably happening?
Party. Happening.
Probably.
Yeah. Wow.
Party buster.
Mom and dad can check that out from wherever they are.
So just those controls, that ability to know what's happening in that Wi-Fi network. But then, and we can never forget this, security.
Security is huge.
Security is huge. As Xfinity, we built that into our modem, that gateway modem I was telling you about. And it is just a 24/7 activity staying in front of the bad actors on the internet, period. I mean, it's like whack-a-mole, like you can't even imagine.
Well, and I want to get into that because safety, cybersecurity, all really important. So when we think about the bad actors, okay, we probably as a user, and I will admit, and I'm proud to admit, our home is served by Comcast. I'm probably not even realizing how much protection you are giving my internet structure and the modem and all of these devices, which even though you've taught me the terms, don't easily flow from my mouth. But it's okay because I don't need to worry about that. You all are worrying about that. So give us a visual on how much of this protection is happening that we're not even thinking about.
Absolutely. And that's what we want our customers. We want our customers to trust that we're doing all that work behind the scenes because as you know, as a consumer, one bad crisis and it's hard to get that trust back. So what we are doing is we have a 24/7 kind of advanced security operations center. You can kind of picture this in your head.
I can see them.
Kind of like with trench coats and hats,
Yes.
But no, it's really more of an AI, software operations center, but it is constantly monitoring that network, just sending out data points, looking for new threats, blocking those threats, and then kind of figuring out how the new actors are figuring out then, when you block the threats, how they're finding how to override that block and then come on with a new block. Like I said, whack-a-mole. Last year, just to kind of put it in perspective, we blocked in 2024 like 40% more threats in cybersecurity than we had the year before. Like that's how advanced this is getting.
And that's how dedicated you also
have
to be, right?
And you
are.
Never take your finger off that.
Yeah, and your eye off that ball.
Eye off that ball.
So how does AI play into all of this, Carly?
Well, we've been able to use AI and we will be able to use AI in such significant ways of monitoring networks and getting smarter, right, than the next threat.
Which is great because you're doing it so customers don't have to. And then many of our listeners are business people. If they're using Comcast in the business spaces, I'm guessing the security, you're just as much in that attention sphere.
Absolutely. And so important in that business.
Because when you're looking at both, personal home stuff, but also businesses, there's a lot of money riding in that. I know for me, my system is not only protecting my intellectual property, but it's protecting all of the files and communications that any of my clients have sent to me. And they send them to me, or I'm looking at what they're sending and sharing, or my notes from our sessions, and they're counting on me to keep all that information confidential and secure.
Absolutely. And if you don't do minimum, but probably you should do the maximum to protect all that, that's going to be a hit on your
Huge liability.
Any business's reputation or liability. Absolutely.
Right.
And a huge thing that also plays on this in terms of building up that trust and meeting our expectations of our customers is just basic reliability of our network. When you were talking about that, I'm thinking, of course, security is such a big thing, but an outage is a huge issue as well when you don't have that internet access. Think of if it went out right now, what would we do, right?
I mean, you just need the functionality, the comfort that it's there. I remember there was a major power outage in Spain and Portugal, and one of my clients lives in one of those countries based there. I see him by video. We were not able to have his session. And, I woke up to a message saying, if you get on there and he's not on for 5 minutes, it means the power's still not back, which was just crazy to think whole countries had an outage. And I just think about all of the data lapses or other kinds of exposure that now happen after that outage.
Absolutely. And so it is vital that these communications and broadband companies do everything we can to prevent these outages. Now I can speak for Comcast and what we do. And I think something to kind of visualize is that our network, we've got a vast fiber network. And this is kind of we take the Wi-Fi from your house and all your smart devices, and then we dump it into the internet ecosystem. That's all running on fiber now. We've got over 300,000 miles of fiber, enough to wrap around the earth 12 times. So that's a lot of network to be protecting 24/7.
That's a lot of fiber.
And it's out there, right in the public right of way. One errant backhoe will cut a fiber, or fun known fact for your listeners, squirrels love to chew fiber optic cable.
Oh my goodness.
They love it. Okay, so what we're doing on the back end is, again, that 24/7 monitoring, using a lot of AI tools to kind of self-heal. Like 60% of issues in the network now through AI, as you had mentioned, can be self-healed. But we've also developed technologies to spot a fiber cut within like minutes of it happening, detect exactly where it is, so we can send a tech there as soon as
ASAP.
possible.
It's like an ambulance for the fiber
exactly.
lines. Love it.
Because there's no forgiveness for a network being down. There's just too much at stake. And so we're running at like 99.999% reliability, and we have to.
That's really
We
great.
have to.
Right. And you know what? There is never going to be a 100% guarantee that it will be reliable. So I want to ask you something, and I'm not asking you to slam any of your competition, but what are the questions the consumer should ask when they are making choices about broadband, Wi-Fi, all of those definitions you taught us at the beginning? What are the questions as we make our own business and consumer decisions?
Is it the service that's going to fit my lifestyle? Like, how do we use the internet? And is this product that you're offering me going to match my needs? And I've just kind of made a big deal, really could have talked about this Wi-Fi experience, but that's huge. I already talked about that Wi-Fi experience in the house, but also, we're out and about, right? And we're taking these smart devices with us,
and
right?
we're just assuming that we can plug in wherever we are.
We're just assuming
but that's
it's
maybe
going to
not
be
always
there, but
smart, right?
So, you're leaving your house, you've got your tablet, you got your watch, you got your phone. You know how it is. One thing that Xfinity has done to kind of meet customers where they're at in that sense is built out this entire network of Wi-Fi hotspots. We've got over like 23 million around the country, and over 45,000 here in Minnesota alone. So what does that mean for Roshini as a Comcast customer? Well, let's use an airport lounge as an example, because this is one that probably happens to us. And you got some time to kill before you catch your flight, and you want to open up your laptop and do some work. You have the option of, let's say, joining that public airport Wi-Fi network. And, we all do it, and you feel good because it's got a password. But you really got to ask yourself, if everyone has the password, is that a password? If they're just sending what you're typing in your emails directly as it is in plain text, without encryption, anyone, that's perfect for fraudsters to pick right up, right? So the benefit of having, like that Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspot, or any hotspot that's part of your kind of paid service, is that it is secure. is that you're entering it as a customer, that you know already that it's encrypted, so you can take all of your devices on the go with you.
And you take that protection with you.
Mm-hmm. And then there's just a huge convenience factor. So, I kind of talked at the beginning, and you set this up with what the marketplace looks like now. And we kind of talked about how, the kind of traditional cell phone providers are providing that fixed wireless service now. And Xfinity is offering that mobile service now. I've alluded to that. And there's just a huge convenience factor of how all the one service where all the networks are working together in a kind of a converged way. So our Comcast mobile product, 90% of it is traveling over our Wi-Fi network, right? And so that means when you hit those hotspots all over town or in a different city, Chicago, Denver, wherever you might be traveling to, that mobile is going to find that Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspot and again offer you that faster, more enriched data experience, but also secure. And so just really look at, what's my lifestyle? How am I using all these products? It's all kind of getting to the end game of finding all your smart devices and getting it to the internet. But what's the most safe, secure way and the most convenient way?
Right. So it's asking those questions. And really, when you are given a choice in the marketplace, get your questions answered.
Get your questions answered. So this is how I use the internet, right?
And my
what's
needs
the right
with all my devices.
Yeah, how does that match?
And I think you just know as a consumer, when you're getting an answer that's backed by both common sense but also good works that provider is doing. You also know when you're getting the runaround. So listen to your spidey senses on that, even when you ask these questions.
Absolutely. And let's not forget just how much more people are using the internet these days. And so that connection to your house still does matter. I don't want to gloss over that. I'm giving Wi-Fi, like I said, a lot of attention here because it's the unsung hero. But that connection to your house is so important. We've seen internet traffic increase double digits year over year. And that trend is not going to slow. And I think something that's interesting also to think about is, how much streaming you're doing at home. We certainly see for Xfinity, our networks, 70% of the internet traffic is entertainment. So that convergence of entertainment and technology is real. It's happening. It's certainly not slowing down.
And it needs reliability,
and
too.
And it needs real reliable connection. People might find this interesting. So the last year, we've seen the top 5 highest network traffic events happen. And they were all around either a major sports event being streamed or, a big new gaming coming out and everyone's downloading it.
A new debut.
A big debut, a big popular, everyone's got to get it that day. And the biggest event we saw was when the NFL wildcard game, the Chiefs game, was exclusively streamed. That was over 30% of our traffic that one night.
That's incredible.
So that trend is growing.
The trends are growing. The future is here and beyond. And it's really great getting these lessons from you because all of us are going to be more thoughtful consumers and also more secure in the worlds we're living, using the devices in the way we and our families use these devices. Thank you so much, Carly. Connect directly with Carly Werner on LinkedIn and at comcast.corporate.com. Today's case file is powered by Northwing Digital. Northwing Digital is driven by a simple mission: help businesses succeed. Guided by core values, trust through transparency, and GSD. Get stuff done. Northwing specializes in SEO and paid digital ads that deliver measurable results. From Google search to paid social, strategies that help your business stand out and grow. Make your marketing dollars work harder. Visit northwingdigital.com to get started. Northwing Digital, your partner in growth. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Visit thecrisisfiles.com library for all 3 seasons of the show. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.